Good morning, fellow Arizona hog hunters. I want to welcome you here today. We're gathering under a very cloudy sky. Last night we had some showers, which we really appreciate. Beautiful morning, nice, calm, cool temperatures. So we decided we'd go ahead and do a little video, catch you up on some stuff that's happening. And today I'm going to be talking about one of the comments that we received on our comment section. Question. First let me introduce Mia. She's my little girl and little Kangle, and she's just wanting to be part of the picture. Anyway, back to Josh. So Josh sent this comment in. Questioning, he says, basically what he's saying is, hi, my name is Josh, and he's been doing archery for about a year now, and he's really excited over the coming hunting seasons, as we all are. This is a time of year, we're just in the middle of August, so we start making our plans for our hunting seasons, and I well relate so much when I got into archery myself. I and a buddy at the same time, and our first hunts were something we never forget. And so Josh, on that note, I can very well relate. Anyway, he's asking, he says, I'm wondering what information you could give me about hog hunting. I understand it's an invasive species. This is something that interests him, and he'd like to help out the native wildlife as best he can. And of course we understand that the wild boar are not very conducive to a healthy wildlife population. They are destructive on many levels. Great hunting fare for those of us who like to hunt them, both from a table fare standpoint to a highly challenging perspective. Okay, anyway, Josh goes on to say he's been watching our YouTube channel, and he sees an area, one of the areas that he's interested in is the area between Mammoth and Winkleman, Arizona. And this particular area that he's asking about is what we call the lower San Pedro River hunting area. It's lower even though it's north of us, because the San Pedro River originates more to the south down in Mexico and migrates this way to the north, one of the very few rivers that actually runs from south to north. And so this is an area that he finds of interest, that he wants to be doing some deer hunting in, and I can attest to him that this is a very good area. Lower San Pedro River area, along the river, is pretty much where you're going to find wild boar, and as well as deer. It's very brushy along the river. But that river area extends, anywhere from 100 to 400 or 500 yards wide in places. That's very thick brush, and so it's kind of hard, very difficult, unless you can stalk very quietly, making like maybe a mountain lion or something going through there. It's really tough hunting for both pig and deer in that area. There's the area to the south of there, from Mammoth down to the Benson area, is what we call the middle San Pedro area. It's a little more open. And it has, especially just north of Benson, Pomerine, little town out of Benson, there's a nature conservancy area that we've had a lot of reports from active hog sightings, and they are pretty thick in that. I actually had a cousin, his daughter took a good sized boar out of there back several years ago, and he had been tracking them for quite a while. And it's just a natural habitat for wild boar as well as deer. That's that nature conservancy you can't hunt on. They have it isolated. It's illegal to hunt on the ranch, but hunting the canyons around the ranch, which is huge, it could be very productive. And so that's one thing I might comment about. He asks also, he says he'd like to know more about the best times to hunt wild boar. And pigs are night creatures, and that's one of the things that people here in anywhere don't realize how many hogs there are in an area, because they typically come out at nighttime. Here in Arizona, we have a lot of javelina, and a lot of times people will see these hogs early morning, evening times, and sometimes at night, maybe crossing a road or something out in the field, and mistake them for javelina. And, you know, the lighting isn't perfect, so it's pretty easy to mistake javelina with wild boar when the lighting's not that good. So, but yes, your best times to hunt: early morning, evening when they're coming out to forage. Hogs have a weakness; they have to eat. They love food. So wherever their food source is, that's where they're going. They also love water. They have to have water, lots of it. They don't perspire like dogs or other animals. They don't have the sweat glands, etc. So they have to stay cool. So, and this also goes to their bedding areas. Typically, you'll find the hogs bedding during the day, the heat of the day especially, wherever it's cool. And the thick brush areas, they'll dig out where the sand is moist and try to stay cool during the day. So these are some areas that you might want to focus on. Josh is also asking about the ideal broadheads to use for archery. We found out through experience, our archery experience, that with hogs, you need something that penetrates. And you have to learn how to avoid that front shoulder area, especially on the big males. They have a real thick plate. It's almost like armor. And unless you have a very powerful bow, which has happened on occasion. I remember one incident where I took my nephew out, and he used to pull back this 80-pound bow. And I think if I recollect correctly, he was using a cold steel broadhead, known for penetration and cutting. And he put it right through a 350-pound boar's shoulder, which I had advised him not to do, but he was kind of hard-headed. But he did it, and it dropped that pig. That pig, I mean, it didn't take one step. But that's a lot of bow power. He was using heavy arrows. And so, bottom line is, with archery, you're better off using a bow that's at least 55 pounds and heavier, especially if you're going after the bigger boars, because they have very thick hides, a lot of fat, especially in the wintertime, which is usually when archers are out hunting. And so learn your hog anatomy. All of their vitals are typically lower than most wildlife, and so you need to learn where to hit those. A lot of hunters like to go both with rifle and with firearms and archery. They like to go for the spine shots, or just below the ear, and that's, if you can do that, more power to you. So let's see, on that note, again, south of the Mammoth area all the way down to the Benson area is a great area. The Middle San Pedro River area, Also to the south of that, we call the upper San Pedro River area. Excellent, excellent area. We're getting reports of tons of wild boar. This is east, actually southeast of Sierra Vista. In those areas down towards the border, all the way to the Mexican border, along the river, of course. Wherever there's water, you're going to find those hogs. And so that's another area, and that's the upper San Pedro River area that we think, and we're going to be doing real soon some more scouting of that area. And so stay tuned for future referencing that area. Again, I'm not knowing the specifics of your draw weight on your bow weight that Josh is asking about. Josh, you can learn a lot about archery, and I'm sure you've learned quite a bit, but your draw weight is important. Like I said, 55 pounds should be the minimum when hunting wild boar. Your arrows should be moderate to heavy weighted arrows. Your arrow speed obviously has a lot to do with hunting wild boar. Your effective range, etc. Of course, you are probably well aware of all of this. Again, if you're going after the big boars, you need a heavy bow. I would recommend at least 65-70 pound draw weight. Again, there are mechanical broadheads out there that penetrate and do well, but you can't hardly go wrong with your your cut on contact type broadheads. And Cold Steel, I mentioned, was one of them that's really good. And there's a bunch of them out there. Okay, so and understand one thing: when you hunt boar, you have to be having that mentality that you're going after Cape buffalo. If you haven't heard or understood how to hunt Cape buffalo, then I suggest your research. What these and the reference I'm making is that if you wound a pig, which with archery you do quite often, and then you have a tracking chore ahead of you, these pigs, these hogs, this is where they're just like Cape buffalo. They will run and they will find the thickest, brushiest location they can. They will back into it and wait in ambush for its predator or the hunter. So if you start, and again, I recommend giving hogs time after you hit them to bleed out as much as possible. And if you're going to be tracking, I always recommend to my hunters to carry a heavy sidearm, 44 mag, 45 Colt automatic, 357, something that when you're tracking, a lot of times when you're tracking these pigs, you'll be on all fours crawling through brush, following a little blood trail here and there. And so these pigs will come after you, especially when they're wounded. I had a situation with an archery hunter that I left up in a tree. He had a stand under a tree that over a feeder site, and I took he had a buddy with him, so I was taking his buddy to another site, and we hadn't got to that other site a mile away, and this guy, the hunter I left out there, he's on the radio telling me he's up a tree, that a whole herd of pigs had just chased him up because he wounded a pig. Well, what had happened is he had shot a young shote, about 50-60 pounds, and it started squealing. It dropped but was squealing, and the rest of the pigs in the whole area came charging in at it. And he went right up the tree and was calling us from the tree to come help him. And so I turn around, drive my truck right into the stand area, and sure enough, pigs are scattering everywhere. And they took off, and so we get out of the truck, and we're sitting there talking to our hunter who's climbing down now, and he's telling us all about how this all happened. And we kept hearing things in the brush around us. And then I saw a pig coming in as like crap. And all three of us went up that same mesquite tree. Fortunately, it had big limbs for all three of us to fit into. And we had to sit there and wait because the whole herd came in again and were looking for something to attack. And we had to sit there for about 15-20 minutes hollering at them before they finally took off. And we were able to go down. Meanwhile, the show had expired. And we picked it up, threw it in the truck, and got out of that area. This is what I'm talking about when you're tracking wild boar. I've had countless examples of that. Not to mention having wild boars just come in after you thinking whatever it's thinking, because they will protect their territory. A large sow with a litter, she will protect her litter and come after you. So for archers, I highly recommend carrying a sidearm. It's just good safety practices, and make sure your sidearm is heavy enough to do the job on a charging boar. So again, let me tell you that hogs are the most challenging animal we've hunted. I've taken bear, elk, deer, even shot a coyote once. I didn't collect him because he ran off with my arrow. Jackrabbits, archery is exciting. It's very challenging, even more challenging than hunting with a rifle or a pistol. Well, pistol gets a little challenging. But anyway, so I'm excited for you, Josh, and for any of you other hunters out there that have any questions, feel free. Make your comments or your questions on our comment section with the videos. We have our email listed there as well on the videos. So feel free to question anything and everything, and we'll try to address your concerns and your questions as best we can. And on that note, I will sign off for now. This is Ron with the Arizona Hog Hunter saying bye. Okay.
She's got Coopers on her.